And Nike's next one, so we talked about it earlier, Smoke. It took place this weekend in New Orleans, right around the Super Bowl, and that's going to be the case every year. It was in Vegas last year. I believe it'll be in Santa Clara next year, but it is a collection of elite talent from the upcoming class, which in this case was 2026, and they represent NFL teams all across the NFL, and it's, like I said, around the Super Bowl. But let's bring on national analyst, my guy, Mike Roach, who was there, boots on the ground with me in NOLA over the weekend. Mike, how's it going, my friend?
It's good, Tom. It's been a little over, day and a half since I've seen you, but it's good. Everybody got back home safely.
Hopefully you got some rest. I know I was working on 2 hours when we left the next day, but you told me as soon as we left that event, and you're in the state of Texas, you have covered 7-on-7, some phenomenal events in the Lone Star State, but you told me leaving that event, it was maybe your favorite event you've ever covered. So kind of break it down for me. What really impressed you, and why did you like it so much, man?
I mean, it's Nike, so it's extremely well run. And then, of course, Brian Stumpf and the guys at Student Sports, and, the guys that put on Elite 11 running the camp. It's an efficiently run camp as well. And so I thought in a lot of ways when we're in this period of the camp season, we're back on the grind and it's the long camp days. This was competitive, but it also was fun in a lot of ways where it allowed us to see the personalities of the players, allowed us to, I thought adding flag football to it rather than just a straight 7-on-7 was a fun touch. And I thought overall just really well put together, a ton of star power out there. I mean, how many NFL guys do we see? It was hosted by the Pivot podcast. There was all sorts of things going on out there at Joe Brown Park.
5 stars all over the place. We had our number 1 overall player in the country, quarterback Keisean Brandon. We had Jackson Cantwell, Zion Ely. I mean, a loaded group. But taking home the Alpha Dog honors for us was top 247 receiver, DB, CJ Sadler, who considers himself maybe the next Travis Hunter and a guy that wants to play both ways. But kind of, what did you think of his performance, and why, in your opinion, if you could share with everybody, why he was our Alpha Dog this weekend?
Well, I think the great thing about these types of events is that, like, for a guy like me who may not be familiar with a player like CJ Sadler, who's not in my region, you really get to see them up close and then get a new appreciation for his game. I love early that he was going both ways. He was playing receiver and DB, but I mean, really showed out at receiver. The highlights are running here. He had that post corner where he puts the defender in a blender and then, makes a spectacular catch. He had a couple other tough ones over the middle. When they get to the flag football game, he's scoring. I think he scored the most touchdowns of any receiver there. Was just a guy that was electric from the moment he stepped on the field. I thought he really had like that alpha type of energy. Like, yeah, there's Keisean Brandon's here and Emmanuel Iheanacho's here and all these guys, but I'm going to be the best guy on the field. And, candidly, Tom, I mean, the process going into the flag football portion, we had another name in mind for the alpha. And I think halfway through, I texted you from across the field and said CJ Sadler alpha. And you said I was just texting you the same thing. So I think he impressed both of us during that portion.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, man. I'm sitting there walking across the field and you basically hold up your phone, check your phone. And it was for the same exact reason. But kind of looking at the quarterback position, I think that's the big seller, right? Everybody wants to know how the quarterbacks did. And you had Tennessee commit Keisean Brandon. You had Houston commit Keisean Henderson. Oregon commit, for now, Jonas Williams. So a really strong group. Ryder Lyons as well. And Texas commit Dia Bell. But from that group, in your opinion, who really popped for you?
It's my first time seeing Ryder Lyons as well. And, I told you meeting him and just kind of getting to be around him personally. I love the personality, love the competitor he is, but really showed off, a lot of high-end tools to go along with that magnetic personality. I thought the funniest part was that, the NFC team, the guys representing the NFC teams were overloaded at quarterback. And so a lot of those guys had to play receiver. They were running triple passes during the flag football portion. And Ryder showed off some serious athleticism. I think he caught a couple passes downfield, was able to escape, and not a surprise with what you've seen on film. I think he's kind of the perfect mix in a quarterback of blends the physical talent, but kind of has the, as the kids would say, aura to go along with it. And then, of course, Keisean Henderson, a favorite of your and mine. I got to show some love to my guy in the state of Texas. I just love that Keisean competes everywhere he goes. I mean, he's his setting is not these camp settings for quarterback. He can't do as much with his feet, but he gets there, he competes, and he always seems to shine in multiple phases. We saw it at the All-American Bowl. He was really good in the individual stuff, had a good day in the accuracy challenge, and then made some plays in the flag football setting as well. I think probably the most impressive of the night was after the event ended and the quarterbacks decided to have an unofficial long toss tournament, and Keisean tapped everybody out with his 75-yard throw. I mean, obviously, arms were a little fatigued after the evening, but he's got such a loose action in his arm. It looked like he was barely putting anything into it.
I left that right there when they did the long toss thinking that Keisean has the strongest, in terms of distance, strongest arm in the country. I could not believe how close he got to 80 yards, and it wouldn't shock me if he could hit it. But we just had Director of Scouting Andrew Ivins on there, and I know, like himself and you guys love the trenches, O-line, D-line guys. It's just the way you guys are focused when we go to these events, and you gladly took O-line, D-line, the matchup. So kind of break it down. Who really popped and who stood out for you when you're talking O-line and D-line?
The O-line group, and we named Emmanuel Iheanacho, the 5-star from Maryland, as our top O-line there. But it was a really tight race, I think, in between, especially between Iheanacho and Jackson Cantwell, which, oddly enough, that's the number 1 and 2 guys in the country at the position. So a fun little battle developing there at the offensive tackle position. But I thought Iheanacho was the guy that probably during his one-on-ones did it with more physicality, more dominance. Cantwell was extremely clean with his technique, one more clean, used his leg better. Both of those guys, 5 stars for a reason. Both have every school in the country after them for a reason. But the guy I really came away with, impressed with, was Andrew Trout, a Minnesota commit, who I think is a perfect fit for Minnesota. And he's a guy that grew up there in the Minneapolis area, has been a Gopher fan his whole life. And I think that when you can find kids like that with the skill set like him, I mean, he looks like a Big Ten tackle already, little room to grow. Once he adds that strength, I think he's going to be a cornerstone for that offensive line.
Mike, I appreciate you, man. I thought we crushed it for the 48 hours or so that we were there, but I appreciate you always. As always, you do a phenomenal job. But 247sports.com, you can get all your coverage from the experts like Mike Roach at 247sports.com. We also have promos and offers, so be sure to head to your local team site and join today.